Boom. We're live.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we get into this, before we introduce our guest, I just want to, I always like to do a little announcement at the start. I don't have a lot to announce other than it's middle of August and my studio is going gangbusters. I hear, Johnny, that your studio is doing really busy too. Crazy stuff.
Crazy busy right now.
Yeah. John, you know how many we've done of these photo buzzes so far?
I'll take a wild guess because I haven't been downloading anymore because I know you were downloading them to put them on thing. I'm going to guess and say about 25.
Such a good guess.
Am I close?
You're bang on.
No way.
So we got number 26 going on today.
Wow.
So anybody who's joining us for the first time or who's watching a replay, all the replays, all 25, and if you're watching this, down the road, you can, every week we do one of these. And I like to say that each one of these are pure gold, pure relevant to anybody who's serious about growing the photography business, who wants to get into technical stuff, get into mindset, get into selling, marketing, photography services. So we've had a lot of guests with us over the last bunch of months, all the way from architectural, not to be mistaken with real estate photography, but architectural photography with Randy Sarton from Knoxville. We've had so many, like Warren Noyce, and last week we had Judy Cormier, and then the week before that we had none other than Peter Hurley, and a whole bunch of other guests, all of whom are experts in their fields. And it is with great pleasure and honor that I want to introduce our next guest. He comes all the way from Naples, Florida, originally from Canada. I think there's a Montreal connection. I'm not sure there. I thought maybe you were from Sudbury, Louis. How are you doing?
I am from Sudbury. Hey, guys. Nice to see you.
Why did I think you were from Montreal originally?
Well, I was born and raised in Sudbury, and I moved to Montreal when I was 23.
You told me that, and I forgot. Thank you very much for that.
And was in Montreal for 5 years and moved to Naples, Florida 32 years ago.
Nice. Well, before we get into it, I know, we've been corresponding back and forth and talking a little bit online, offline, and via text messaging. I know I like your story because you're legitimate. You got a long history of running a photography business. You seem to be quite adept at turning a profit. You've been through a lot of changes, and perhaps you're going into a whole new phase of life right now. And I like the fact that you gave John some really good advice yesterday when we were doing a live stream test regarding golf tournaments. And I actually woke up this morning thinking about that exact thing. I'm like, holy shit, that was genius. Why didn't I know that? What Louis was saying, and we'll get to that in a minute. So I just want you guys to hang on for that little strategy that Louis had suggested to John. And, I'm going to tell you, you're going to love it. And Louis, I'm going to hold John's foot to the fire and make him do what you suggested, at least in some variation. So,
right.
John's smirking. John, you're muted. Keep it that way. That's exactly the way we like it.
Sorry, I was just testing the audio on the.
Yeah,
I always monitor it on here. I was just testing it to make sure it was working. But no, it's easy for me to do what he was saying. So.
All right, we'll talk about that in a minute. So, Louis, if anybody has any questions, throw them in here. Anything goes. Well, we'll try not to get into politics and or religion and or sex talk, but other than that, anything goes.
Shoot. All right, I gotta go.
All right. I'm not sure which one of those pissed you off the most, religion, sex, or politics, but so Louis,
sounds like a good mix.
Yeah, well, the three hot topics, right?
Yeah, right.
I was in Toastmasters in 1991, and I did it I'm still in it technically. Wow. And there was always a basic rule: you don't talk about sex, politics, or religion. But anything else goes. So, but anyways, so Louis, give us a bit of a rundown synopsis of your quick history of in photography, and like how did you get to Naples, and we'll go from there. What do you say? Is that cool?
Yep. So basically, I went to Cambrian College in Sudbury for marketing, and my goal was always to be a businessman, entrepreneur, and to be successful at whatever it is I do.
Smart.
Number one thing for me in anything I do is I have to be passionate about it. So if it's something that I have passion for, I know I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to it's going to motivate me to do better and excel and learn and all that stuff. So passion was always, number one. Photography, I kind of got into photography because I had an uncle that lived by the French River who was a blue collar welder for Inco.
Right.
But he also had a passion for photography. So I think that's where I was exposed to the passion side of it. And he did basically he was a professional photographer, but as a part-time thing. He did it on the weekends and did weddings and family portraiture, and also was an avid hunter fisherman. So he would always take these unbelievable photos of sunsets and sunrises and in the woods when he was camping. So I was always impressed with that. So I think that's where I got the bug for it. And as a 16, 17-year-old kid, I started doing 35 millimeter stuff and shooting weddings for kids in high schools and, charging them a couple $100 here and there. And that's how I kind of started creating revenue side for it. And it was never intended to be my full-time profession. I
really
was basically, it was supposed to be my part-time gig. Yep. My part-time gig to create extra revenue, kind of like when my uncle was doing. He had his full-time job, and then he did weddings and he did family portraits, and it supplemented his income. So that was my I thought that'd be a great way to continue with my business initiatives and do this on the side. So when I moved to Montreal, I worked with different photographers offering my services, sometimes as assistant, sometimes as second shooter. Got a little bit of exposure that way, but I got all my sort of my exposure to learning photography from going to workshops and seminars. And I would encourage anyone that wants to get into photography. Obviously, I didn't have the internet when I was, in 1980, there was no internet. So it was all, picking up books, going to seminars and listening to the pros. And you could still do that today. But today people have the internet. So you can go on YouTube or on Google and you could see videos on pretty much anything you want to learn about. So you don't need to go to the trade shows, but the trade shows are awesome because you feel a buzz and energy and the adrenaline is flowing and you're going to all these different workshops and you can pick and choose from the different speakers to whatever interests you. So if you're in an area where you're doing a lot of weddings, then you might go listen to the wedding specialist. If you're in an area where it's more real estate driven, you might go listen to the workshop on. So with COVID, I don't think there's been too many trade shows over the last couple of years.
No, not much.
But I used to, and I'm 61, so I'm I'm looking for the retirement aspect of what I'm going to do next. And so things change as you evolve, as you get older. Things change. You develop different techniques and different skills, and it's like also I like to have analogies, and I look at it as a garden. If you look at a garden, if you just plant carrots and one day nobody wants carrots, what are you going to do? So you got to plant different seeds. So you got to plant some, and so photography is kind of like the same thing where you might have a specialty, but then one day there's 50 other guys in town doing the same thing. And then you got to say, okay, well, what do I have to do different? So it's always good to sort of think out of the box of what you can do next or what you can do differently. And I've always loved marketing and motivational speakers. And anytime in my life that I've had an opportunity to listen to motivational speakers, I've always tried to use that in applying that for myself, for me. And one of them, I don't know if you heard the one about the bear, the two guys in the woods, the bear in the woods. Have you heard that one?
With the bunny rabbit?
No, there's these two guys who are walking in the woods and they're just wearing sandals and whatnot. And then at one point they see a grizzly bear, and the one guy opens up his backpack and throws on a pair of sneakers really fast. And his buddy says, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm putting on some running shoes." He's like, "Well, you're not going to outrun the bear." He goes, "No, I just have to outrun you." So
that's a good point.
So the analogy is, if you use that in a business, point, you could sort of look at your competition and say, okay, what can I do to be better and faster and than them? And then you're already a step ahead of them,
That's amazing. I'm writing these notes down. I want to talk about some of those, but continue on. Sorry.
So I'll just finish real quick about my photography story. In 1988, I got married to an American lady that I met on a Club Med vacation in the Caribbean, and that kind of completely changed the course of my life. A small town guy from Sudbury living in Montreal, all of a sudden I'm living in Naples, Florida. Her father,
fell in love.
Well, we got married, and then her father relocated a couple of companies down to Naples from New Jersey. in the fastener industry, nuts and bolts and screws and whatnot. So I basically came to work with her dad, and we published a trade magazine. So I did that for 12 years while I was married, and I still nurtured a photography business where I would do weddings and I would do family portraits and whatnot on the weekends and stuff. And when I got divorced, I just basically decided, well, let me do the photography thing for now until I figure out my next business venture. And that's how I basically did photography full time from then. So I've been doing that full time for many years.
You had at some point in the 90s, I believe, you moved into a commercial storefront location type thing, or a home studio?
I purchased, I figured it'd be a good investment to purchase a space. So I found a really nice commercial condo, business condominium in a beautiful little business park. And,
in Naples?
In Naples, yep. So I had that for 13 years, and I sold it a few years ago. Made a little bit of money, but at least I got, whatever rent I would have been paying somewhere, I got that back. So I think I sold it for $125,000, but it was paid off, and it was a nice, nice way to, to get put a little bit of money in the bank.
Yeah. So before we continue on with that, I want to ask you a little bit about your philosophy on that. This is, I believe in owning my own real estate. So is that why you got into that, or you have the same belief?
You mean in the studio?
Yeah. Or, generally speaking too.
No. Yeah. Well, I mean, I could have rented space for the same amount of money that my mortgage payment was for.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't remember how much I put down, maybe 30,000 or something to buy the space. But, you get it back. If you're going to commit for 10 or 15 years and you're going to be paying rent somewhere, if there's an opportunity to buy, mind you, sometimes if you're renting in a space where there's a lot of traffic, commercial traffic, then that might be better. On that perspective. But I was in an area where I didn't do a lot of studio, but I did, headshots, and I did family portraits. But in Naples, environmental photography or environmental portraiture is usually the high demand, the sunset photos on the beach.
Yeah.
The families that get together for Thanksgiving and for family reunions, they want a nice family portrait. And the weather is really, accommodating here as opposed to like in other areas, like maybe where you are. In October, November, it might be difficult to do a family portrait if the weather isn't cooperative. But in Naples, even in the rainy season, which we have now, we typically get rain in the afternoon, 2-3 o'clock. We get a good amount of rain, and then it clears up, and then you get beautiful weather for sunsets.
Nice. So, it's pretty consistent and reliable, is it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you ran that studio for quite a while, doing all of those. Plus, you sold it a few years ago. Where did you move to then to run your photography?
I bounced around a couple of different places. First, I set it up in my home. I had a home where I had two living rooms. I had a dining room and a living room when you walked in. Mm-hmm. So I basically used the dining room as my office, and I had the living room facing it as the studio space. It's not the ideal situation, but financially it was great. But the idea of bringing people into the home, I lived in a gated community. They had to go through a gate, show their ID. That wasn't ideal. And then I was able to rent a beautiful space in an art gallery for about 2.5, 3 years. Then that fell through. That was phenomenal. It was really, really reasonable. And I had the whole back of a gallery to myself. Really? Yeah. And, but the guy that I was leasing it from needed the space because he was expanding. So I had to pretty much give him his space back. So, but that was probably the best setup,
One reason why it's nice to own your own place, you get to call the shots. But I'm going to guess that art gallery thing, as ideal as it was, no big loss because you're sort of in your 50s by the time that opportunity was implemented. And if you were starting out and you had to move around like that, that would kind of suck. But you want something more in control. So
and also I've been in Naples for 32 years, so I was here before all the other guys pretty much. I'm like the dinosaur where the other photographers are always waiting for the old guys to die off so that they can but I'm very fortunate that I have a long list of clients that I've worked with over the years, and they're very loyal, and they sometimes I get a phone call from a client that I haven't worked with in 10 years. Matter of fact, I just got a corporate event that I'm doing in December from a company I worked with 10 years ago.
Really?
I think they're in Canada, Unifirst. I think they do uniforms and stuff like that. They're doing
I'm not familiar with them, but I want to segue into what you're doing now. So you had this art gallery thing that phased out, and you sold your house, I believe, and then you are sort of in transition right now.
Right. So right now I'm basically running my studio out of my car. I've got light.
It's homeless.
My equipment is in my car. I've got light stands, and I've got backgrounds and background stands, and
Right.
3 or 4 photogenic strobes in the back of my car, so I can set up anywhere.
Right.
But I try to use as much as possible when I do headshots. I try to use natural light.
Mhm.
I go to the client's office, and they usually have a boardroom with beautiful window lighting, and or if it's a country club, they've got nice space with beautiful window lighting. So as much as I can, I try to use window lighting, and it's beautiful. And sometimes I'll just use a little fill flash for the shadows and for the shadows under the eyes.
Yeah.
But lighting is everything.
Yeah.
And setting up 5 lights to do a couple of headshots is not, it's not really what I want to do, because I'm not charging them $2,000 to do a headshot. So
Yeah. Yeah. So are you sliding into some form of retirement, or do you see yourself always to some capacity working with these clients of yours until whenever, till you're whatever, 75?
Honestly, I think I mentioned to you a few times, I also, as my part-time job is investing in stock equities, and as there are people that we know that have worked for the school board or worked for the government, and they're at our age and they're getting beautiful pensions. Well, you don't have that as a photographer. So my advice to anyone would be to invest in equities. Think of it as a garden. You start with just an empty field, and you start nurturing it, paying a little bit of attention to it. And it's always good. For example, the best example I can give is the last year and a half with COVID. Every event I had on my calendar were all nixed. Every single event. I had to go on my calendar and go to each event that I had, and just mark canceled. Everything was canceled. I do a lot of corporate stuff. So I do a lot of corporate dinner dances where I do photos of the couples when they arrive to the country club, and then we print photos on site with the logo. And that's a really great, it's very lucrative, and it's a great gig. And that all fell through so basically what did I have to fall on was my savings and my investment account that I had from trading stocks.
Right.
So
you've been doing stocks for how long?
I've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
You would think that I'm an expert by now, but there's still a lot of stuff to learn. And I'm kind of like I do basic buying and selling of stocks.
Yeah.
I'd love to learn more about puts and calls and all that stuff, because a lot of guys do that. But I'm not, but I kind of keep an eye on the market. I have a diversified portfolio in my retirement account, and I do spend a lot of time with it. And the last year and a half, I spent a lot of time nurturing my retirement account.
Yeah, I know you and I have talked over the last year, and you've been very generous with your information, and I'm really appreciative, and I'm filled with gratitude for that, because I too have been looking into the stock market. I decided last January I'm going to hunker down and study this while I'm in 6 months lockdown. I'm a real estate guy. I still have not formulated a plan. It took like 3 or 4 months through Royal Bank to get us finally set up where we can now trade or place our tax-free savings account. But I'm sort of like right now in limbo. And just Sunday, 2 days ago, I was talking to my wife. I'm like, we got to do something. And so this is a good conversation, and you're reminding me.
I think the real estate situation is pretty much identical in Canada, from what I gather from talking to my friends and whatnot up there, as it is even in Florida.
Very much so.
Florida is on fire, literally, with all the northeastern states. Everyone, it's like an exodus. Everyone's moving to Florida. It's ridiculous, and people are overpaying and buying, which is great for the market. But there's nothing to rent. You want to rent a condo, you want to rent an apartment. Good luck. And I hear it's the same up where you are. So my thought I'd love to, maybe the 3 of us should put some money together and start buying some fixer uppers. I'm not kidding, man. It's like you some fixer uppers, and you clean them up and paint them and make them look nice. And there's tenants everywhere. The people that can't afford to buy are renting. Yeah. And so I think there's some opportunity there for sure.
No doubt. And at some point in time, we should get you back real soon, and we could do a joint discussion on both real estate and stocks. You being the sort of the stock guy, me being the real estate guy.
Sure.
Because I've been doing real estate investing for over 20 years now, and I consider myself quite successful at it. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying, I've taken a certain approach, and I think you have to have a knack for any kind of investing like that. whether it's stocks or whether you're playing real estate or whatever. You know, I've always loved bricks and mortar.
Yeah.
And, been studying it since like the 80s. But all that to say, as a photographer, you're self-employed. What you mentioned earlier, Louis, you said we don't have that nice big fat pension. I was just talking to a guy, you know, Valet, which was called Inco.
Yep.
My buddy Jim, he says, yeah, I'm retiring in a few months. I can retire whenever I want now. I'm going to get $3,500 a month. And I'm like, oh man, that must be nice.
Yeah.
You know, and whatever else he's put away. So he's in a sweet position. But I'm looking at myself and I go, I've got real estate and I've got money put away. So I'm not doing so. I try not to compare, right? But anyways, the whole point is that this is something that we need to do. Yeah, and it's important because you don't want to be caught at the end of the day with living off the meager.
I'm going to try to adjust this light a little bit because I'm looking at the lighting that you guys have, and I look like the devil. I'm red like a.
You just need a couple of horns.
I just don't know what to do with this lighting. I don't know. It's pretty bad.
Turn it off. Just flip it off.
Maybe. It's dark.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
not bad. Yeah. I don't know why it says red. Is it a tungsten light?
It's just a desk light. It's not nothing, you know. But I had my computer screen on. That helps a little bit. But maybe I'll have to work on the lighting. That's for sure.
it's probably tungsten. Maybe it's a tungsten bulb.
It is. I think it's probably just a normal tungsten bulb.
If it's a LED light, it'll be daylight balanced. So
yeah, it's not a good light. I wouldn't want to use this to do a portrait. That's for sure.
So you mentioned, dinosaur waiting to die off. I love the idea of what you said earlier. What do I do? What can I do that's different? And what can I do next, you know? And I'm going to pick on John a bit too, because he's always making fun of me and my Swiss Army knife metaphor that I use in business. You know, you thank you for bringing that up. You plant nothing but carrots and all of a sudden nobody wants carrots anymore. So you got to have a garden. And that's basically the same philosophy that I have when I use the Swiss Army knife. I got all these tools in my Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
All right, I don't need this one right now. I need this one. So I'm able to go to the market. And Dan Kennedy talks about that all the time. He says the power of one is the worst thing.
Sorry, let me turn this thing down here. I was trying to turn the screen on to get some more light.
I thought he was just going to play us some music there.
That looks good. Did that light come on? It looks better.
That's just my other iMac that I just turned on. It's just sitting there, so that might work. Yeah.
So, but anyways, yeah, that's a really good strategy and philosophy and mindset that I totally believe in. So you've over the years have applied that doing weddings. We're going to show some of your images in a minute. Maybe we can get into that in a minute. And I want to talk about your convention photography too, if we can. So,
sure.
But over the years, you've been well diversified. So now you're doing families on the beach.
Families on the beach, a lot of headshots.
Headshots.
I've done real estate interiors, but you know, there's so many people doing it, and it's not that lucrative. I mean, if you're going to do 3 or 4 a day and market that's one thing. But you know, I'm at an age now where financially I've set myself up a little bit where I've got some income, and I'm just trying to do the gigs that I want to do. You know, I want to do the stuff that I'm and running around to do $200 real estate homes. It's not something I want to do right now. So,
well, if you had a client for a convention call you up, I mean, you're probably not going to say no to that person.
Right. Well, you know, as you know, the last year and a half, all the conventions have been pretty much nixed. They're starting to again, but now we've got this, you know, this Delta variant that's causing a little bit of a curve. And so I think that we might have a little bit of a slowdown now for the fall. But right. I would expect after we get through this next level, hopefully in the beginning of next year, that the conventions will start up again, but it could take a little while. So I'm not holding my breath, but I do a lot of, you know, like I say, a lot of dinners where there are couples that, you know, that they want photos for the couples, and the on-site printing is a great thing because I customize the border and the logo.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people take the time to do it. It blows my mind. I mean, it's like, you know,
Can we show one of those images that exemplify what you're just talking about, John? Maybe you could show maybe the ones that Louis sent us last night.
Yeah, I'll show one of those.
And I think one of them was one of those where you created a border, and I'd like to talk about that if possible.
Sure. And, yeah, there's a company called Desktop Darkroom, and I purchased a software, and once you buy the software, they give you a key, a dongle. You could actually download the software from their website for free and use it, but you won't be able to print with it until you pay for it.
Not that
so
one, John.
that's just an example. That was just a sample that I made up for.
I want to talk about that one, but there's another one there, Johnny, where I think there was 3 people. It was
Four
not.
people.
Oh, I
outside.
see what you mean. I know which one you're talking about.
So
Yeah.
I've been volunteering for the Naples Winter Wine Festival, which is one of the most successful wine festivals in the world. And I've been volunteering my time for a lot of the events that take place, but I also get to do a dinner. So that right there, that photo, for example, the gentleman on the right is one of my best clients, an attorney from Chicago. He's the #1 litigation attorney for airline disasters in the U.S.
Oh, really? Eh?
Yeah, one of my wonderful clients, and then a couple next to him are from Chicago as well. And they've used me a lot of times to do their dinner. So what happens with the wine festival? You've got about 20 trustees, and they all host a dinner at their home, and it's $10,000 per couple to attend, and they usually get about 24 people, and it's a lavish dinner, and there's about 10 or 12 of them in going on in one night. So sometimes we bounce around, or I might have a photographer at the one across the street.
Yeah.
And then we have a station set up in one of the homes, and then we have a runner bringing us the image, the files. We could use Dropbox, but it's quicker to just run the card and download it.
Right.
And then we'll print the photos. Usually, if it's 24 couples, it's only 12 prints. So that's an easy gig. So we'll do 2 or 3. But
did you say the size of those? Are they like 4x6, 5x7s?
All 5x7s. Yeah. And I have got these nice presentation folders so that we can present the print and they can fold it so that they don't get their fingers on the image. And typically, most people will probably get rid of the folder when they get home and put the photo in a nicer frame.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about it is for corporate use, you do have a logo on it. So if I'm doing an event for, a company that's flying down all their, their top performers, and there's 60 people, they get a photo, but the company logo is on it. And to me, that's great for the company because they get some extra mileage for the image.
Yeah. Especially if they're sponsoring, right?
Yeah, and like I was mentioning to John, if you're doing an event where you're offering your time at an event, and I do a lot of nonprofit events as well, and a lot of times I'll mention to the organizer that I could add a logo so they could actually sell that and earn extra income or extra revenue. So you might say, okay, well, we'll charge $2,000 and we'll put your logo on all the photos. And a lot of companies like a bank or a new bank in town would love that opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's extra income for them. So it's like, I call it a win-win-win. It's a win for me, it's a win for them, and it's a win for the corporate client.
I gotta ask you about that. If an event like this sounds like a real who's who. And not only you're going to benefit by meeting these people and working with them and obviously building your rapport, your network, and your reputation and your brand, which is powerful. Just something I totally 110% agree with. But I mean, who's going to say no to this? So if a bank says, or a whatever that you pitch, they're going to look at this and go, I can have our company logo associated with all these people. And these are players. All of them are players.
So for example, let's say Royal Bank has been sponsoring this golf tournament, and Chase Bank moves in, and then they're in the new bank in town, and they have an opportunity to put their logo in front of all those VIP people. So that's why I like the expression win-win-win. It's a win for me because I'm making some money and I'm earning some revenue, but it's a win for the client and it's a win for the sponsor.
Yeah, I love it. Totally love it. So you do a lot of these, and is there one in particular that stands out for you, say in the last 5 or 6 years, that was like, wow, this one was a real?
Well, the wine festival has been a go-to every year. Except for the last year and a half. I mean, I think the last 2 years they haven't done it.
Is it coming back?
Apparently they're going to have a live auction this year coming up in January.
Live auction. Yeah,
they have a huge tent that they set up at the Ritz-Carlton Golf Resort. We have 2 Ritz-Carltons in Naples. We have a beach resort and a golf resort, which is 3 miles from the beach resort.
Nice.
And they have a lot of property there. It's on a golf course, and they erect a huge tent, and they have about 500, maybe 600 people under the tent on auction day.
Wow.
And so it's amazing. And funny story is that a couple of years ago, there's like 5 or 6 photographers running around, and we're doing photos of all the people raising their pallets, and they're drinking a lot of very expensive wine, and they're spending a lot of money, and donating millions of dollars for all these amazing prizes.
Mm-hmm.
It might be a trip to Napa Valley for 2 days, and you get to have dinner with the chef of the French Laundry one night, and you get to go to one of the top vineyards the next day, and then you fly to LA for 2 nights, and you stay in Beverly Hills, and that's a prize.
Yeah, so that's really unique and obviously high desirability. I'm going to guess they overbid on those, possibly bidding wars.
A lot of times the trustees are all friends, and a lot of times they'll bid together on a lot. Let's say it's a trip to Kilimanjaro for 3 couples. Well, the three trustees will say, "Oh, let's bid it up," and they go together.
Nice.
So
totally
the lots are unbelievable. They had one year. They're always trying to come up with what can we do to have $1 million lot. One of them was, and now they started once they discovered this, they do it all the time. One year they said, okay, let's have like a unbelievable artist do a private show for 100 people, $10,000 a ticket or whatever. So it's $1 million. Well, they've done that already with the group Chicago. They had a private, so I did all the photos for that. They had Leanne Rimes one time come in and do a private show for 100 people. Amazing, stuff like that.
No kidding.
One time, one guy came up with an idea. Why don't we have 100 bottles of 100-point wine? So they selected 100 bottles that all scored 100 points on the Parker and the there's another a Wine Spectator. So that rated. So there was a lot, and they had a local artisan build a wooden table with a glass top, and it was shaped like a wheel, and they had all the 100 bottles all laid out in the.
How much did that go for?
I think it went for $500,000.
No kidding. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you though, have you ever donated like a large super deluxe wall portrait from your business?
No, because they have a lot of stuff that's I mean, you're talking about $50,000 lots, $80,000 lots. Right. I don't think they'd want like a 30 by 40. You never know, but
Well, let's say it was worth 10 grand, which is fair and reasonable.
Yeah, no, I've never done that with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Sudbury, we've done that with the local theater center, and but at a much smaller blue collar scale. We're no Naples, we're no Pembroke, we're no Ottawa Valley. But it's the same idea. I mean, really, you're rubbing elbows with this crowd, and obviously that's a crowd that you feel comfortable with.
Sure.
And you feel it's part of the group with which you have so many clients that you've built up over the decades, and they call you back, even if they call you every 10 years. They call you. It's like, we like Louis, we trust Louis, he's the man.
And it's something that I'm proud of, because it's like there's a lot of all these country clubs and all these that I've developed a relationship with, and it's kind of cool when you hear someone just say to the manager, "Hey, just call Louis." That's all they say, just call Louis. So it's like kind of cool that they'll just and they know, because I've been doing this for a long time. They know I'm professional. They know I will show up and do a great job, and then I won't embarrass them. There are all these little things, but
trust.
When you're developing a business, you always should have the mindset of, if you get a chance to Google the Ritz-Carlton Credo, because I've worked at the Ritz-Carlton a lot. They have a credo. Anyone that works at the Ritz-Carlton has to learn and memorize the credo, and they have a little card with their mission statement on it, and you have to keep it in your wallet. So if you ever get a chance to see that,
write it down.
So basically, the Ritz-Carlton credos go something like, "We are ladies and gentlemen serving ladies and gentlemen." And one of the points that they put forth is that they will always want to meet and exceed your expectations. So when you go to a Ritz-Carlton and you walk in and you ask someone where the ladies' room is or where the men's room is, they're not going to just point. They're going to say, "Oh, follow me, sir. I'll show you where it is." And they'll bring you to or if you're looking for a particular dining room, they'll go out of their way and walk you to the dining room. So they're exceeding your expectations.
Yes.
So I've always tried to use that in the way I develop my business. I'm always trying to, my goal is to not only take good photos and great photos, my goal is to get that reaction from the client when they get the pictures. They're like, oh, wow, that's what you want, and that's where the passion comes in. The having a passion. If I wasn't passionate about what I did, it would show in my work. It would. It's like TLC. And I also use another analogy where if you talk to a chef, the chef will always tell you that the sauce is everything. The sauce is going to make your meal, or it's going to kill your meal. And so in photography, I equate it to lighting. Lighting is everything for photographers. Too much light or not enough light will have a significant impact on the finished product, and how you use it and how much you use it. Not, sometimes you want a lot of light, sometimes you don't want a lot of light. And so it's the same thing with cooking, but when you apply TLC to it, when you care about how much salt you're putting on the steak or how much spice you're putting on it, the finished product will reflect that. So that's kind of like these little analogies that I like to have.
Those are pretty good ones. I love them. And lighting is everything. I've said that a million times. I like this. Just Call Louie. That's a good name for a movie or a book. Just Call Louie.
What's that movie on Netflix? Just Call Saul.
Better Call Saul.
But just as he was talking about some of that stuff, that reminds me. Like I've been starting to do real estate listings in this area because during the lockdowns, that was one of the only things we could do. Sure. And I'm in the Ottawa Valley, so I'm about an hour and a half outside of Ottawa, and about 3 hours from Kingston. And yet I was getting emails and calls from people, real estate agents in Ottawa and in Kingston that have properties in this area that they were selling. And I would ask them, well, how did you find out about me? And they would say, oh, well, I went on Google and typed in real estate photographers, and you're the first name that pops up. I don't know if it's because of my SEO from my website, because I don't advertise that. I just, I know in the locally here, some people know I've started doing them, but I haven't advertised that. But for some reason, my name keeps popping up. So I must be doing something right.
Must be doing something right.
Yeah.
That's a good writer downer right there. Must be doing something right. So, John, can we show one of Louie's pictures that he sent last night? I got some more questions about some of those. Specifically, I'd like to go, well, there's two areas I want to go into. You said you really like doing authors' bio shots. Maybe we could talk about that one.
Yeah, there's a lady in Naples who's a publisher. And so I often get a call from her that she needs to do headshots or, a portrait for a book cover, or sometimes it's the inside cover or the back cover. Oh, if you go back to the so if you look, go back to the gentleman with the glasses. Okay, that photo right there, that was taken about 2 months ago. That gentleman is Jamaican, and he was falsely incarcerated, and I think it cost him like $100,000 for legal fees, but he was basically proven innocent. Yeah. And he wrote a book called Escaping the Darkness. And when I was doing the headshots, I just had my standard background, just a nice muslin. I've used it for years. That background in the back that you see there, I can light it up. I can darken it. I can brighten it. It's an unbelievable. It's my go-to background. I use it all the time. So I that's exactly how I usually do my lighting. I've got a hair light. I turned it off for his hair because he doesn't have any hair, so I did no hair light on that shot. But I used a back kick light that you can see on the right side. I use a main light and I use a fill light to the right of my camera. So my main light's usually to my left, my fill light's to the right, and I of course my main light's going to be what I do to talk when I talk to people and I try to talk about lighting. I try to simplify it by using it miles per hour. So I use it so my light on the left is at 100 miles an hour, and my light on the left is at 60 or 50 miles an hour, so that they can understand the difference of the lighting ratios. Mm-hmm. If I say it's a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1, they don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So, and in this particular case, because this gentleman had escaped, basically got out of prison because he was falsely incarcerated, I photoshopped some. If you look at that picture, I photoshopped some jail cell bars in his glasses. I thought they were going to use. I thought they were going to use that, but they actually used the other photo. If you go to the other one.
The one before it?
Yeah. The one. Okay. The picture that you see in the book there, they cropped his face for the cover of the book. But I don't know if you can see the actual photo. I think I sent it to you as well.
I'm going to take a look and see if I have that photo itself. So I think it does. Yeah, I see it. Okay.
So when I used to have my studio years and years ago, I think there was a time where using gels on your background lights was popular.
Yeah.
And so I have all these gels that I found in my garage when I was moving, trying to get out of my house. And this was the last shoot I did in my home studio. I basically, after I did this guy's photo, I packed everything up. And when I was going through my garage, I found a stack of these gels. So when I was doing the portrait of this guy, I said to the publisher, I said, "Do you want to try a couple of gels in the background?" She's like, "No, we don't need any." So I said, "No, do me a favor. Let's just use one gel." So I did one shot with the gel.
That's when they went.
And they used that color for the font for the book cover.
No.
Yeah, I did one shot with that gel.
Yeah, because if you look at the book cover here, you can see it's the same color and everything.
Yeah. Now the photo, if you look at that picture, you can see more of the gel. But the one that we looked at before, I vignetted it and I darkened it. I just used it as an edge light. So I do a lot of post-production stuff in Photoshop, kind of like Judy does. I mean, I do a lot of stuff to my images afterwards.
Yeah.
And I like to, you play with lighting, and I've got different actions in Photoshop that I've acquired here and there over the years.
So you're not using like a grid or something on a background light there to get the vignette back there. You do that later on in Photoshop.
I do the vignette afterwards in Photoshop.
Yeah.
It's really
That's what I do too.
Yeah. Now you could in Photoshop or in Lightroom, you could vignette it with their vignetter, but I rarely use that. I might do it if I'm just doing proofs, but when I do a vignette for the finished product, I like to do it myself with I basically just use a Wacom tablet. Yep. And then I just use a large brush, and I go to the outer edge of the image, and I just kind of go up and down, and I let it just kind of fade into the image, and I use it on a layer. So I go dark with it, but then I take my layer down and use the opacity, bring it back down, and then I use my Wacom tablet, my brush, and I'll go in and I'll open up some areas, kind of like we used to do in the old days with film, with burning and dodging. Yeah, same kind of techniques.
I kind of use the way that Warren Noyce does, where you do duplicate the layer and put it on multiply, and it darkens everything, and then you take a brush with a mask on it, and you put a mask on it, and then you just circle it where you don't want, and then use your opacity and things like that. It does the same thing.
Yep, I do that all the time. Yep.
So your light that you're using, 2 questions on this one here to get a little bit technical since we're going there. It looks like it's low softbox, maybe with grids. It's very focused because you got those nice dark shadows on his left or right.
No, my main light, and again, I've been trying to get rid of this, but I have a 4 by 6 foot Larson softbox, 4 feet by 6 feet. It's huge. So it's basically sitting to my camera left, 45-degree angle to the subject. You could kind of see the angle going towards his face there. And then my main light, my fill light, sometimes I'll tone it down. Or I'll turn it over so that I just get a spill from it. Yeah. And then I've got a kick light in the back. Now, if I had more space, I'd have a kick light to the left, but I only have a kick light on the right side. So,
well, it still works, right? So,
So do you put your fill all the way to the right of your camera, or do you have it behind you?
Nope, it's just to the right. So basically, I'm kind of like in between.
Yeah. Because I know some people like to put. I think Rob, sometimes you like to put a fill right in the center there.
I often don't use fill. If I do, it's over top or to the left.
I use reflectors. I'm not a big fill light person. I like to use reflectors. That's just personal opinion. Either white or silver, depending on what look I'm looking for.
Sure. Whatever gets you there. Gets you there. So.
Exactly.
So this is awesome. I love it. And this was a shot you suggested you were hoping they were going to use. And
No, he might have used it on his, on his social media and stuff. He might have used it for that, but
maybe they put it in the side on a write up on them or something.
Yeah, and then if you go back, you saw the image of Times Square in New York.
I want to go there.
I don't know if he paid for that, but he apparently his book is like a #1 bestseller. I don't know where, but there's a picture of his picture, and the inside shot of I got a full length picture of him standing up, and they put some font on there. But that right there was a one day exposure on Times Square.
Nice.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Nice.
I personally, they decided how they wanted to crop the front cover. I don't know. I think they took a lot of his face off, but that's how they did it, and it's fine. Yeah,
it's well done, though. I mean, really, and it's amazing that they use the one with the pink gel.
Yeah, one shot. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 shots, but basically, she wasn't a fan of it. The publisher was like, she didn't want. I'm like, just let me take 1 shot, and that's another thing too. As a photographer, if you have confidence in your ability, you convey that to the client, and it might be subliminal, but the client, it might be saying to themselves, and that's something that I want to do as well. I want my client to think, you know what, that guy's a pro. That guy's a pro. And that's what I'm trying to do all the time. As a matter of fact, I shot a wedding about a month and a half ago, a small wedding in Marco Island at the Marriott, JW Marriott. And it was a small group, obviously because of COVID, they can't gather, you know, but it was a small group, the family, grandparents, the groom's brother and sister, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm setting up all these shots. We only have an hour. So I'm boom, 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 boom. Let's do this. Let's do that. And I'm positioning everyone next shot, next shot, next shot. And 15 or 20 minutes later, the bride's sister, as we're walking from the hotel out to where the beach is, we're kind of walking, and I'm just always, you know, engaging and chatting with people. And the bride's sister says, "We had 3 weddings this month. This is our 3rd wedding. My niece got married, and my blah 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 got married, and this is our 3rd one." And she goes, "And I can tell these images are going to be better." She saw the photos of the other 2 weddings, but she was telling me, "I could tell already that these are going to be better pictures than those 2 weddings." And that's, you know, that's kind of stuff that you know, when you're a pro and you're doing your job and you're doing it professionally, people recognize it.
I'm not bragging, but I get that all the time. I know exactly. I know exactly. And
yeah, but unlike you, Rob, he can advertise that he's been on Times Square on the big Jumbotron. You haven't.
No, but that's so true, because I noticed that years ago. It was like people would start saying that, and I'm like, really? And I guess there's an aura that you give off, and the way you present yourself, and the way your mannerisms, and take control, and your confidence.
Yep.
And I've always felt that way for decades now, that let's specifically talk about a wedding, that the allies, the greatest allies, are the bridesmaids. And if they're impressed, their expectations are through the roof, and my credibility is through the roof, and they haven't even seen the pictures yet.
Well, you know, that's the thing. If you could impress the bridesmaids, that could be your next bride, right? So,
and that too. So
yeah.
But she's going to go up to the bride. She's going to go, "This guy's amazing." And if the bride's really nervous, then she's going to go, "Oh, yeah."
Well, let me tell you one more anecdote about digital photography. Over the years, people have always, you know, sometimes people, when you're chatting with clients, you know, during a photo event, a lot of times people will say, you know, "How does digital compare to film?" Or, "How, you know, what do you know?" And one of the things that I realized, you know, from being a film photographer for all these years, and I was shooting with the Hasselblads, and, you know, I've had Nikon cameras, and then I switched to Canon. When I got into digital, I started off. It's funny because I should try to find my first digital camera. That'd be a fun thing to talk about. Every photographer that, you know, what was your first digital camera? Mine was a Nikon F5 body, and Sony had the first technology for digital, and Sony had an adapter that screwed into the bottom of the camera, and the card, the memory card, was the size of a credit card. and that was my first camera. I can't remember how much I spent, but it was probably 10 grand. It was
your first digital camera.
First digital camera was a Nikon F5 body with Sony technology, and that you open a little side door in the memory card, and the battery was like 6 inches long, the length of the camera. And that was my first digital camera. But what I was going to say was, one of the best features about digital is, and I'll give you an example. You're doing a bridal portrait. You're starting out the wedding with the bride in, let's say, in the hotel room, using window lighting. You know, that's usually where you first start your day. And the bride's nervous, and she's feeling, you know, because we always look for our flaws, right? When we're, you know, so the bride's self-conscious about maybe a wrinkle or this or that, and you set up a little spot near the window, and you get a beautiful setup, and you take a photo of her with her bouquet close up, and then you see the beautiful lighting, and then you turn around and you show her the picture. You show her how awesome she looks, and boom, she's like, "Oh my God, I look amazing." And that just takes all the pressure off of her wanting to look beautiful, because she sees how beautiful you made her look. Yeah. To me, that's one of the single most important elements of digital, where we could never do that with a film camera. You just tell the bride, "You look great. Trust me, you look great." But now you can show her, and then it automatically makes her feel more relaxed, and feels like, "Hey, this guy's got it. I'm going to look good in my wedding photos." So that's something that I think is really cool.
So that camera, was that mid-90s to 98, 99? That first digital camera you bought?
Yeah, I think it was right around 2000. Yeah, just before that. Yeah, that's.
I took off there for a second because I wanted to go get my second one. My first one's in here somewhere. I couldn't find it, but this was my second one. It was a Canon 40D. Okay. And I had a 20D right before that, and it's here somewhere too. And the difference being, That looks like normal now. If you remember the 20D, it was like a 35 millimeter size.
Oh yeah,
for your background. That was my first digital.
So you got a speed grip, a vertical speed grip on that camera,
I do,
right?
Because I have big hands, and I also like when I go vertical, I'm still tucked in here. I don't like going like this.
But the thing is, when I had this Nikon F5, the bottom part where your speed grip goes is where they had all the Sony technology.
Okay.
That was the computer, and that was the it's crazy. I mean, I've got it somewhere. I got to find it.
It's probably in a museum or belongs in a museum.
Well, the F5, I think it all came as one piece too. There wasn't. This is a separate piece that you buy.
You know what? It was one piece.
I think it was all one piece. It was the F4 and the F5s.
Yeah, it was a joint. It was a joint partnership with Sony and Nikon.
I actually had a Nikon F4.
That was probably 1.2 megapixel.
Oh
wow.
I can't remember, but I know you probably couldn't shoot too many. First of all, I don't think they had raw files then.
No, they didn't.
And I could maybe shoot 20, 30, JPEGs on it. I can't remember.
Crazy times.
Yeah,
I think Canon's very first one was like it was called a D30 or something like. It was a D30.
That was my first one.
That was the very first one they came out with.
And I think they were using micro drives, right? The like not a CF card, but a micro drive, which is
it was the hard drives or micro drives.
Oh, we lost them. I bet you any money I think he's on his iPad. I bet you his iPad battery locked out. I'm sure he'll be back.
We were just about to wind her down. I was just about to make that announcement that, hey, we're down to our last 5-10 minutes.
Well, before he comes back, if you want, I'll show you when you were talking about the stuff with his event stuff. I pulled up one of my last ones I did. It was a charity thing that I did. I don't know if you can see that.
Yep.
And this was where people got it was a Spirit Awards locally here. So I actually just set up my Godox with an umbrella.
Back.
Is he? Okay, let me add him in here.
But I'm back.
There we go. Now he's back. Yeah, so this was, I was just showing him, Louis, while we're waiting for you. This was one you're talking about doing like the borders and stuff.
Yeah.
And so this was one that
I'm seeing
how I did it.
They're wearing masks.
Well, because here it's still where we have to wear it. And then what we did was we did ones after they left, we started doing by themselves, or we do it with a mask, and then we'd have them stand 6 feet apart to go without masks.
Can I make a
social distancing?
Can I make a commentary on that? Just my personal opinion.
Yep.
I hate masks. If I were there, I'd say, let's just shoot them all. Everybody's 6 feet apart. Boom. Yep. No masks. And individuals close up.
Well, this was how they wanted to do it. And that was our local MPP. So we, John Yakubuski. So we, this was how him and the MyFM wanted to do it. And I was just the hired guy. So I had to do what they wanted.
So John,
no, I would have pushed them a little bit, just to see how far.
Yeah, me too.
One
little thing, guys, when you're making a border, always think about that print being slid into a frame. So you got to make sure you got a little bit of breathing room on the bottom of the frame for your logo not to be covered up by the frame overlap.
Yep, very true.
Yep.
So this company, what's it called again? Desktop.
Well,
Desktop Darkroom?
I imagine they're still around. They're in Jacksonville. Desktop Darkroom.
What do they do?
They've been great over the years. Well, they sell supplies. So if I want to buy media for the printers, I believe they also sell printers. There's another company that I've been using in Miami for years called South Trend, and the owner's name is Rita. And I just called Rita up, and then I buy my folders, the 5x7 presentation folders, either horizontal or vertical, and I buy them usually 2,000 or 3,000 at a time because I go through them like crazy for events.
Yeah. Nice.
And then the media as well. So I've been using HiTi or HiTi, HITI. I've been using their die sub printers for years. And there's ups and downs. Sometimes the printer goes what do they call it when it goes obsolete? And then you got to buy either another printer or that kind of thing. So
is that the company there?
The company that's them. Yeah.
So what do they sell? What's their main thing besides hardware? Are they selling? You said something about they do the borders and.
I think they sell equipment. I think they sell camera equipment too. I think they sell. I mean, I've only worked with them for printers and for media. The media is the paper and the ribbon that goes into the printer.
Yeah, but you said you use a software and you.
Yeah. Okay, so the software.
There it is. Go under software. Let's see what I got there, John.
This is the one that I use. This is the DMP printer that I use.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. Now, if you look at the software, give me the names.
To the left. To the left. Way over, Johnny.
Oh, over this side. Okay.
Down. There you go. Bingo. What do we got
Okay,
there?
I forget what it's called. If you tell me.
So they got photo booth software, event, school, youth sports production software. So you use one of those. I mean, that's all we really need to know right now.
But there's other ones in there too. Which one do you think? It's probably the event, one of the event ones here.
Yeah, if you tell me the name of it,
I'm going to click into there and see if it tells. So here's a couple here. We have
click on
darkroom core, darkroom assembly.
That's it. That's
the
it.
core?
Darkroom core. The darkroom core. But what's the name of the? Is it desktop darkroom or? Anyways, darkroom core. Yeah. So basically, they used to send you that little box with a DVD. You don't need that anymore. Yeah. Basically, the only thing you're going to need in that little box is the dongle. The little dongle. It's like a USB dongle that basically lets the software work.
Oh.
His voice went.
Louis, you're muted.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry. Okay, sorry. There was a call coming in. I didn't know what I just.
We're going to let you go in 5 minutes. We're almost done here, so we can wind her down soon.
Okay, cool. So the you can download the software and use it and familiarize yourself with it, I believe, for free. Nice. But if you decide you want to print something, it won't let you print. So that's where you need that little dongle, and you don't want to lose that dongle, because if you lose it, you have to buy another one.
So what does it do? That is.
Okay, so what it does,
I couldn't do on my own in Photoshop.
Yeah, so well, you could, with Lightroom, you could create a border, and you could import the photo into the border. I mean, there might be another way to do it, but I've been using it for years. Yeah. What's cool about this software is I create an event. I create an event in their software. I create a border. So I use a DNG file, and I make a 5x7 photo. You could even do green screen with it. If I want to put a picture of a cruise ship in the background and they're in the Elks, I could superimpose the photo. I've done that a few times as well. But what's cool about it is that you import the images into the software. You see them all, like you would see in the Lightroom you see them all lined up. And then once you click on the image, it imports it directly into the software. And so if you want to frame it a little right and left, crop it the way you want it. And then you could also do a lot of color adjustments and exposure adjustments, and then send to print. You just click send to print and it prints it.
All right. Some of their software is like $2,000-$3,000. Did you see that?
Yeah. So I think I paid somewhere around $1,200 or $1,500 for it.
This one says 460 or something.
Okay. Well, it was a few years ago, so they might have brought their prices down because of over the years, the competition and everything.
Yeah.
Now, question for you: when you're using that software, like when I do a local mall here, I do their Santa pictures, and we print right on the spot with my DMP printer. And right now, I have it go to Lightroom, and then they pick which one they want, because I have a separate screen there from my laptop where I can actually, with Lightroom, I can make an additional screen where you're just seeing the individual image. They're not seeing the back office of Lightroom there that we see, and so they can see it and they can say, "Yeah, I want that one," and then they don't. Can you do that with this software too? Have like a dual screen like that?
I probably could. I've never gone there. The reason why is that, for example, if I'm doing the Ritz-Carlton, for example, they used to have Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas, 1,200 people, 400 or 500 people per sitting, 3 sittings per day, and we have an area set up, and we have people lined up like on a cruise ship. We don't give them the opportunity to look at their photo. I take 2 shots, maybe 3,
and I pick the best one.
Shot. Now, when they come to pick up the photo, there's always going to be 1 or 2 people that are, I don't like my eyes. Then I might go in. I might have another laptop where they can look at it, but I tell them, ma'am, I picked the best shot. You got the best shot. So, but if there's some tweaking to do, we could still do it. But to have people stand there,
I know
it would be chaos.
Drive you nuts, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be chaos. Yeah. So we just basically let
with Santa. We have no choice, but
yeah.
So, Louis, we're going to let you go soon, and a couple of quick questions. What high school did you go to?
Hanmer High School.
I went to Franco
in Hanmer.
I went to Franco Jeunesse, another French school in my area.
Okay.
And we always went to Hammer High to get the best weed.
I was Central Peel Secondary School in Brampton, Ontario.
That's where all the good kids went. I only asked Louis because I know where Hammer High is, because it's in my town.
I'm a GTA guy.
Now I figured he went to a French school, and there might have been a chance that he went to the same school.
Well, Hanmer Secondary was a French high school.
Yeah, I know. One of my best friends in grade 12 moved from Hanmer High. He had been there for 3 years. He had one sister and 3 brothers.
Did I just lose you? Hold on.
We can hear you. We just can't see you.
I just tried to swipe. Hold on a second. Let me go back. There was a incoming something, and I just tried to swipe it, and I swiped my screen.
We can still hear you, though, at least.
Okay. I don't know what I did.
But anyways, yeah, so a little bit of common shared history there. And
what about our normal questions?
Are you, well, you know, if you got one, sure. Okay, let me ask him this question. Louis, you mentioned something earlier about conventions, going to, conventions live and in person, you get that buzz, which I totally 100% agree with. Right, were you a member of PPA?
I was.
Okay, so still a member?
No, I kind of stopped that, but maybe 10 years ago. But I used to be a member of PPA, and I tried to go to a lot of shows. And as a matter of fact, there's a guy from Sudbury. Anyways, that would go to the shows as well. I would bump into him once in a while.
Who's that?
Walter. Remember Walter?
Yeah, Walter Harris.
Yeah, good friend. Good
what about a group called BNI? Do you guys? Because I know it's worldwide. So.
Yeah, so BNI, I highly recommend BNI to a younger photographer that wants to get established and get started. I'm already established. I'm already started. Yep. The thing that's great about BNI is if you're not known and you want people to know you, that's a great way to go. But for me, they want you to go to the meetings every week.
Yep.
And you can't miss.
And so I get 4 missing, and if you do, they can give you a spot to somebody else.
Like I want to travel in the summertime. I want to go to Canada and stuff like that. And it wouldn't work for me. They tell me to leave pretty quickly because I wouldn't want to go to every meeting. But if you're starting a new business, it's fantastic.
I just ask because I'm on my 10th year now, going in my 10th year as a member, and it works for me perfectly because in my small town, I'm dealing with 30, 40, 50 businesses that they come to me first for their photography if they need something.
Oh yeah, because part of the network is to refer each other.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a great for someone that's starting out in any business. But if someone's starting out with photography, if you can get on a BNI,
I agree with you
for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Louis. 3 machine gun questions. What's your favorite food?
Oh my God, there's too many. That's why I'm overweight.
Pick one. Okay, you're stranded on an island.
No, but I'm gonna say pizza is hard to beat.
All right, that's good enough. Okay,
you're a good pizza.
You're stuck on an island. You got all the pizza you want. Life is good. You got one CD. What's it going to be?
Well, okay, because I'm French Canadian and I'm bilingual and I have two cultures, right? So I'm gonna say for français, Francis Cabrel. Francis Cabrel, do you know him?
Nope.
He's like a legend. He's kind of like, and then for one CD, I mean, it would have to be a greatest hits of all the bands I love, but I would say it would have to be it'd be a toss up between the Bee Gees and the Eagles.
Nice.
And Billy Joel and Elton John. I'm just kidding.
All right. Final question on that one, and we'll close it off there. Favorite movie?
You know what? I see that question all the time on Facebook and stuff, and I don't know if I have a favorite movie, but I don't.
All right, one that you really, really like.
If it comes on TV every time it does, you never turn it off. You have to watch it.
When I was a kid, like a teenager, I used to love The Magnificent Seven because I've watched that a few times, but nobody knows what that is. But my cousin Vinny has got to be one of them.
Mr. Joe Pesci.
Oh yeah. I can watch that a few times.
All right.
When he said Utes, he says
the two Utes.
Yeah. Did you say Utes? Yeah.
So, can we get you to come back another day and talk about stocks? What advice, quickly, in summary, would you give to somebody, say, especially like 24-year-old Louis, for investments and planning for the future? What if you had to summarize one sort of piece of advice? You're sitting down with 24-year-old Louis, and you're like, Louis, all right, I know you've done fairly well, but what would you say going back?
Well, I would say that be careful with it and do your research as much as possible. Try to listen to. I listen to CNBC. It's on the background of my TV. I listen to it in my car. I listen to it on my phone. I listen to a CNBC because all the experts in the financial world are conversing every day. So they're talking about a new stock, a new company. They're talking about this and that. So you get to hear about what's going on with Amazon and with all these different companies. Apple, I'm a big Apple guy, so I day trade Apple. I buy and sell it every day.
Oh, really?
So you could be a trader and you could be an investor. So there's two sides to this, two sides to the game. So it's like you could be a hockey coach or you could be the guy on the ice. So there's two different elements, but doing both is what I do. I day trade and trade Apple, but I also have a diversified portfolio for my retirement, of which I have 50 different stocks.
Nice.
And so
research them all.
I daily, I look at it like I was telling you in the message I sent you. It's like having a hockey team. You have four. Let's say you start with 20. Maybe if you want to keep it simple, start with 20 stocks or even 10.
Yeah.
And then just keep an eye on them. And if you've got Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux and Sidney Crosby, they're scoring every time they get on the ice. Well, those three stocks, you want to put more money in them. Yeah. And then if they start, diminishing their talents, then you take some money and put it on some other guys. And then sometimes you got to get rid of some guys because they're not even they're in the penalty box all the time. Then you got to get rid of those stocks. But I would encourage anyone to not get discouraged. If you lose a little bit of money, the goal is to make it back. You don't want to just quit and give up. Because I've heard that many, many times when I recommend to people to get into buying equities, and they'll say, "Oh, my dad lost 80,000, or my dad lost 30,000." Or you don't want to go by that. You want to look at your own, just that's it on that.
Yeah. What about somebody who's just starting out and they're piss poor and they maybe got $100? Start small. Maybe would you advise them to at least start something?
Yeah, start something, and you could also get these apps. We've got Robinhood now, and some of these apps where they let you buy fractional shares. So you could buy a fractional share of Amazon, a fractional share of Tesla. You could buy one of each, for example, and just kind of see where it's going. $100 is not a lot of money to invest, but if you could start with something. You got to just get in the game. And then just, maybe download an app on your phone, like a CNBC or RBC, some of these apps where you can track your favorite stocks and you can kind of see how they're going, and you could compare from 1 month to the other and say, oh, you know what? Oh my God, Apple was at 120. Now it's at 130. Now it's at 150. And you can also look at the history of any stock. You can click on the stock itself, and you can do a 1-year chart or a 5-year chart, and you can see how it's been performing. And you can base your decision on the performance of its history. Doesn't mean it's going to continue that way, but a lot of times it's a good indicator.
So are you going to sell everything and move back to Sudbury because you really missed the winters up here?
You know what? Like I told you, man, I'm single. If I meet the right lady, I'll move anywhere. No, seriously, I'm ready to pull the trigger whenever I want to. I can just go anywhere.
We'll find him a good Canadian girl.
Yeah, man. But listen, I want to go. I'm going to be in Sudbury in about a week and a half for my father's funeral. I told you that.
Call me up.
Yeah, we'll definitely get together and we'll chat. But I also want to travel. I've never been to Kelowna, British Columbia, Okanagan Valley. I want to go check out that part of the country, which area is beautiful.
Nice.
So that's part of my plan, is to try to travel in the summertime. Hopefully next year things will be a little bit more normal and we'll be able to resume a little bit more of a normal life. But this last year and a half has been pretty brutal.
And if you're driving past the old Petawawa Pembroke area, don't be afraid to let me know.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, so John, Rob, I'll see you in about a week and a half when I'm in Sudbury.
That'd be nice to see you. I'd love to hook up, and maybe we can have you over for a nice big fat steak dinner.
That'd be great.
I pride myself in my kitchen skills when it comes to
love it
cooking with fire. So we'll talk. So
I'll have to tell you a story about one of the wine festivals I did with this. The chef was from Argentina, and he cooked the entire dinner on fires that he had going from 7 o'clock in the morning, and he had everything you could imagine cooking on that fire.
I would sell my soul and sell everything in order to do that full time. I love the idea.
Yeah. I'll try to find some shots and I'll send some to you.
All right.
All right, guys. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Love to have you back someday. We'll talk soon.
Sounds good. Nice to talk with you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Louis.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.